sophisticated, but I'm very glad actually both for having been invited to give this talk here in front of this esteemed audience of science communicators, and also that this conference is taking place, that it's taking place here in Innsbruck at my university. Actually, it's really something I look forward towards because, and let me start with two pieces of background why this topic of actually improving Wikipedia, but also improving how knowledge providers actually work together with the Wikipedia community of volunteers. One has to do with what Melanie mentioned, that I was involved in the German public broadcasting context on the supervisory level. I was there responsible as a member on the ZDF Television Council for the field of internet. That's how it's called in the respective law. And one of the topics that I was always, couldn't wrap my head around was that these public broadcasters, they were preparing all those material and publishing them on for-profit proprietary platforms such as YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, you name it. But they completely ignored one of the largest, most important third-party platform out there that was much more compatible to public broadcasting information, which was Wikipedia. And I think for universities, a similar case is true. There's hardly any university out there that doesn't prepare videos and publish them on YouTube. We all are on Instagram, and I'm not against that, don't get me wrong. I think we have to be where the audience is, and if the students or prospective students are there, we also need to go there. But why only go there and not also try at least to cater to another community with a broad reach? I will speak about that later. And the second thing was also mentioned. Actually, my whole life as a researcher has been concerned with the issues of organizing openness. But not, actually, I have to admit, I started off also already with my diploma thesis, where I was looking at open source software development, and then I was very optimistic about all these open things, but it's often the case. The more you learn about something, the more you also learn about caveats, the more you learn about downsides. And actually, currently, my topic is actually exclusionary openness. Actually, I'm mostly concerned with how, if you just open something up, this doesn't necessarily lead to more openness, or might even lead to new forms of exclusion. Not something I'm going to talk too much about today. But since I was actually working for the last, I would say, 25 years on the issue of organizing openness, I could also observe how actually the role of Wikipedia in public perception, but also for our common knowledge, has changed substantially. So I look in the room and I see many of you were around when Wikipedia was launched in 2001. Not all of you, but at least not in the sense of really, using Wikipedia back then, but some of you probably used Wikipedia early on. And if you try to think back, what was the debate around Wikipedia around that time? It was, Wikipedia, have you heard about it? Anyone can enter and edit anything, in this platform. You shouldn't believe a word that's in there, because, it's, anyone can write anything in there. Yeah, so actually it was, people were mocking someone who believed, you read it at Wikipedia, so implying that this person doesn't know shit. Yeah. This was the first 10 years of Wikipedia, and actually a lot of research was done on, always economists, why do people do something and aren't getting paid for that? Yeah, but that's a question that exclusively economists puzzled. For the others, the question was, how good is Wikipedia knowledge actually? How does it compare to traditional Wikipedia, traditional encyclopedias? And actually, what they found was not so bad after all. And I'm not talking about how current and how the knowledge on Wikipedia was. But then suddenly something shifted, and I would say for the last 10 years, what we can observe is that actually in a world of growing disinformation, of fake news and that kind of stuff, Wikipedia became actually one of the most trusted sources on the internet for knowledge, particularly in those areas where knowledge is controversial and contested. When you want to get up to date, on the hot topics, like during Corona, what is the state of knowledge on COVID? If you now want to know what is the state of the conflict in Ukraine, of the Russian invasion there, if you want to get a kind of an overview also of what are the, maybe even the controversial issues where there's no general agreement, Wikipedia is probably the best place to check that out. Yeah? That's not true for any niche topic, you know, but that's true for the most important topics, yeah, that really dominate the news. Yeah? I will also get back to that in a second. So at the same time, and this is then very important, I would say, for people, for communication professionals, not just has the perception of Wikipedia as a knowledge source changed, but also our perception of what anyone can edit means. From a reality that anyone can edit, actually nowadays we see anyone can try to edit. But this doesn't mean that anything will survive. Anyone can give it a shot. But whether this will end up in Wikipedia, yeah, we will see. So this has also changed. So nowadays, actually, the question is: can I get anything into Wikipedia? Will an article that I start survive the initial deletion discussions? Okay, so let's now start. The topic is science and Wikipedia, science communication in Wikipedia. This will be the main focus. I want to set the scene. I've looked at the program of the next days, and there will be much more details on specific questions. I will today make it easy for myself and just deal with the general questions, with the basic questions, and then in the end maybe address some of the potentials and pitfalls I see. But let's start with the question: how scientific is Wikipedia? If we talk about science and Wikipedia, how scientific is actually Wikipedia as a medium, as a platform? And we know Wikipedia self-defines itself as an encyclopedia, and actually I will work a lot with Wikipedia as a source. I also recently wrote a blog post where I argued that it's perfectly fine to cite Wikipedia also in scholarly texts if you would have cited another encyclopedia, yeah? And if you use permalinks. Anyway, so, and if you look up in Wikipedia, encyclopedia is defined as a compendium providing summaries of knowledge. And I would say, if we look also in the history of encyclopedia as a text form, what we can see is that actually encyclopedias are also a genre of scholarly texts. And actually not just in the past, but also even today. Actually, I'm behind with one of the texts for the currently in preparation Encyclopedia of Strategizing Activities and Practices, which is an encyclopedia by Edward Elgar, who actually this goes down here the list, has dozens of encyclopedias, scholarly encyclopedias, trying to offer scholarly knowledge in an encyclopedic format across diverse disciplines. And to some degree, encyclopedia has been one of a scholarly text that was around even before science as we know it, like peer-reviewed journal publications, was even there, was even developed as a form. And why am I emphasizing this? Why am I putting this up front? Because the self-image, the self-description of Wikipedia as an encyclopedia is very important to understand how Wikipedia works. Because actually, and it's also very important to understand certain struggles that Wikipedians are facing. Yeah? Because if you define yourself as an encyclopedia, you have to answer the question, okay, what is of encyclopedic relevance? What should be covered? What is noteworthy enough? What is important enough to deserve its own entry? And Wikipedia, previously it was clear you couldn't put everything in an encyclopedia. It had to be printed, it had to be produced, it was expensive. But nowadays, the internet, there's no, the problem is not the paper anymore, but the problem is, of course, the eyes and the authors and the people checking for mistakes or updating what is published in an encyclopedia. And even within Wikipedia, and now is the most dangerous part of my talk, looking at the two guys from Wikipedia here in the room, there are camps, so they don't agree necessarily where to draw the line. They all agree that we need to draw the line somewhere. And we can observe that the number of articles has grown linearly over the last decade as well. So we have more and more articles, but the number of editors that are there to care for those articles has remained stagnant since 2000. I would say 10, if we look back. Not in all language versions. And actually within this community of Wikipedians, you could say there are kind of two camps. Most of the Wikipedians probably would say we are somewhere in the middle between those two camps, but there are inclusionists who say, let's not restrict ourselves to the relevant standards of traditional Wikipedias. Let's open up, let's be more inclusive in terms of what content we invite and want to host, yeah, as an encyclopedia. And then there are the others, the deletionists, who say, no, actually, this is a fantasy, but in reality we have to make sure that we can provide good enough quality. Otherwise, you know, the trust in our knowledge will suffer if we allow everything in and we cannot substantiate it. And actually, these two camps, yeah, these are, of course, people advocating for or against the deletion of an article. And there has been a nice visualization project, some of you might have seen it around. It's called notabilia.net, and it's a research project that tries to visualize something that for some of you who have maybe tried in the past to get an article into Wikipedia have experienced as a quite frustrating experience, yeah? Which is deletion debates. Yeah? The first thing that happens, if you write a new article on a topic, you think you know everything and about it, or not everything, you know enough to write it, and then what happens is someone will flag the article is not substantiated enough, not referenced enough, not relevant enough. And then the debate starts. And what Notabilia does, it visualized. And for each contribution to the debate that advocated to keep the article, it was this kind of line turned to the left. And for each contribution to the debate that advocated deletion, the line turned to the right. And what's nice here is you can see each line is one deletion debate. And you can see all these articles, they have been kept. None of these articles that have been debated in these debates, each line is one debate, each line is one article, all of these have been kept. And that's interesting, because it shows that even though there are articles where a majority of people were advocating deletion, they survived. And there's also an asymmetry. Actually, one could say there's a slight inclusionist bias in Wikipedia, because there's also, now we looked at the articles that survived. If we look at the same graph on those who were deleted, you see, it looks stunningly different. You see, much more people on the side. So Wikipedia is not a democracy of knowledge. The majority might be in favor of deleting an article and might still survive. But the number of people advocating for something is not irrelevant either. And I would say that's very close to how science works. Yeah? So in science, and also when we draw the demarcation between pseudoscience and science, you know, we would not go that far that we say if we are and actually it would be very dangerous in science, if we would say if it's not majority opinion, you are not scientific anymore. But still, we need to draw the line and say, no, astrologists, no, there's no place for you here at university. Yeah, so, and this probably should look then, or often looks more like that. Yeah, so, and I would say that this is what makes actually this kind of who to include, what is a legitimate contribution to our common body of knowledge. That this cannot be voted upon, but that still the number of opinions of people advocating for something matters. I think this is very similar between Wikipedia and science. So the question, how scientific is Wikipedia? I would say there's a substantial scienciness to Wikipedia from its very start, from its origin, from its self-perception, from the way actually it arrives at what is considered to be knowledge. Sorry. But at the same time, Wikipedia is much more than a traditional encyclopedia. One could, actually I don't care whether you argue that Wikipedia redefines what is or makes an encyclopedia, or whether Wikipedia is an encyclopedia and then something else as well. Yeah, I don't care. Definitely for Wikipedia and its importance, Wikipedia is more than just an encyclopedia. And let me give you some examples what I mean it's more than Wikipedia. I would say Wikipedia is also itself to some degree a journalistic endeavor. It's not just an encyclopedia. I mentioned already the Russian invasion of Ukraine. If you look at where did people want to get their information right when this happened, Yeah? And you can see, actually, I compared here 2 Wikipedia pages in 2 language versions. That's the red ones are the Wikipedia page on the Russian invasion, and then the pages on Ukraine, both in English and in Russian. And that's of course important because in Russia, you know, there's probably even more interest in information that is not from state media. And what you can see is how the use of Wikipedia pages skyrocketed in terms of viewers. There more than 1,000 people contributed to the English language page on the invasion alone in the first month. Yeah? Actually, those who contributed to the Russian version, that's a very rarely happens, but in this case it happened, that actually the names of even the pseudonyms of the contributors have been hidden, yeah, to preserve them from Russian counterattacks, and actually some of those and Russian prosecution. And but the point I want to make here, to some degree, Wikipedia is a news source, and it's a news source with real-time updates. It's actually a news source, even though if some Wikipedians are unhappy if I'm saying that, but they are fulfilling this function. Yeah, they are better than any live news ticker from Spiegel Online or Der Standard, yeah? So, which is very ephemeral and not transparent, and actually it's gone as soon as the event is over. That's not the case in Wikipedia. So this is also something that makes it important and relevant for science communication, I would say. The second role that Wikipedia plays, it's the most important business card out there for anyone who has a Wikipedia page. And this includes businesses, so that's the example I brought in here, yeah? But of course also people. Yeah? So actually there are 2 reasons why people are very angry with or unhappy about Wikipedia personally. One reason is because they don't have a Wikipedia page. The second is because they have a Wikipedia page. Yeah? So these are the 2 main reasons people are unhappy. And I understand both of them. Yeah? So actually I got my Wikipedia page soon after I got relevant. Yeah? And you know, as a professor, you're relevant as soon as you're a professor. But not as a junior professor. Yeah? So I was first junior professor, so not relevant. And then I got the call here to Innsbruck, relevant overnight. It took some more weeks on the Wikipedia article to be written, and since then it's outdated. And so everyone has his own story why Wikipedia is mean to him or her. Yeah? So I would say some with more justification than others. But this is, the importance cannot be overstated of this, and this also has to do also with something that I will come back at the very end of my talk, is when you look at this business card of Nestle itself would never design a business card that way. Yeah? Okay, I give you that. I opened that menu to make the point. But even in the first paragraphs, there is already a paragraph on the controversies, on the criticism. So as soon as you got a Wikipedia page, you lose control of the most basic information that most people will find about you online. And then, Melanie mentioned this in the beginning, Wikipedia is a core part of Wikimedia's free knowledge ecosystem. Yeah? It's actually, of course, the most important, but surely not the only one relevant, particularly for science communication. So Wikidata, for example, yeah, if we talked about open data, we talked about open science, yeah, I see a lot of overlap here. And I'm not even talking about how Wikipedia and a lot of these other projects are used in scientific projects as a data source. Yeah, this in addition to that. Okay. Then this brings me to the next question: how important now is science for Wikipedia? So, and this is the brief part of my talk, but I think it deserves to be mentioned because Wikipedia is a reference work, and Wikipedia, as I said before, wants to collect and present knowledge, yeah? Solid knowledge, yeah? One could say proven knowledge. And one of the reasons, one of the ways that Wikipedia tries to accomplish that is that Wikipedia articles should be based on reliable, published sources. So that's taken from the Wikipedia page on reliable sources. And if you read down this and actually, you can get lost just in all the rules and paragraphs on referencing. It's really, we're talking about dozens of pages on what could be considered a reliable source and all that kind of stuff. So you can really spend some time there, which I did. And but what you can find there is that many Wikipedia articles rely on scholarly material, and this is, I would say, is key. When available, academic and peer-reviewed publications, scholarly monographs and textbooks are usually the most reliable sources. So reliable sources are required, but the most reliable source from the perspective of Wikipedia are scholarly texts, scholarly articles, journals, textbooks, whatever. If you don't have a scholarly text to prove your point, okay, then you resort to journalistic articles or any other forms of sources to considered reliable. So one could say that Wikipedia as an endeavor relies to a large degree and to a substantial part on science as a kind of input, as delivering the reliable sources it needs to accomplish its goal. Let's turn to other, but of course that's very obvious. Let's turn the question around. How important is Wikipedia for science? And this is not so straightforward, I would say. Yeah? First, there are not a lot of researchers in this room. If there were more of you, this question would make more sense, and I really hope that Pavel doesn't get up now. When I'm asking real researchers never using Wikipedia, please stand up. Because at least I can speak for myself. Of course, I'm using Wikipedia regularly, to look up certain things, to freshen up my memory, to prepare courses. I would never do that. But of course, Wikipedia is used as a reference work by researchers around the globe. Yeah? It would be absurd not to think about it. But that's not the most important point here, also not necessarily from a science communication perspective. But I think it's also relevant, because, you kind of, by being cited in Wikipedia, other researchers will find you more easily than just via Google Scholar. So I would say the more general point here is, it's not just researchers using Wikipedia to get a first glance, at least, of a topic, or to use it to identify relevant sources. But that's something that happens all around the world. And if we talk about scholarly impact in the world, I would say Wikipedia is one of the most important filters. I would call it the Wikipedia filter. And there has been a very recent study by Thompson and others. It's from lawyers, law scholars, legal scholars. We might debate how much they count as scholars, but still. So they did a very social scientific experiment on a randomized control trial with Irish Supreme Court cases that they wrote Wikipedia articles about some of those and others they didn't, and then they tested whether it mattered with respect to the frequency that they were used in rulings by judges. And of course they found it mattered. Of course it mattered. And this is a graph of this article, not directly related to their method, but it shows actually that there has been a huge push in adding US Supreme Court cases to Wikipedia, but of course not all cases are on Wikipedia, but those that are they are much more influential than those that are not. And I would say there's another thing that's relevant from an impact perspective, that Wikipedia is part of this free, open science, I would say, approach in general, and actually it's helpful in both ways. Yeah? So there's this study by Teplitsky and others, many of you probably are aware of it, that actually controlled for field and impact factor and looked at what are the odds that a journal or an article is referenced on the Wikipedia, and what they find is that those articles that are published open access, they are much more likely to be cited in Wikipedia. Not so surprising after all, given that a lot of content on Wikipedia is not provided by people with access to scholarly databases. One could say maybe this might change as Sci-Hub is becoming more widespread. But in Germany, of course, where it's blocked by many ISPs, people are drawn to open access available sources. So one can say science that's referenced on Wikipedia is more impactful, And at the same time, science published open access is more likely to be referenced on Wikipedia. Yeah, so we have, I would say, several self-reinforcing reciprocal dynamics in this regard. So now that we were talking a lot about science and Wikipedia, let me now turn to, I would say, yeah, maybe the most basic point I'm going to make today. How important is Wikipedia for our common knowledge? I think I gave some hints already in that regard. As I said in the beginning, that Wikipedia is now amongst the most trusted sources of knowledge out there. Yeah? But I think, and that's the point I really want to make here and want to recognize, I think the relevance, the importance of Wikipedia knowledge for knowledge at all and for our common knowledge is still underestimated at large. Yeah? Otherwise, it wouldn't be so surprising to have you in this room, or it wouldn't have taken so long for such conferences to be organized. If we look at Wikipedia, is consistently amongst the 10 most visited web pages online. It's always between number 5 and number 10. But you know, this really underestimates the importance. Yeah? First of all, if you can see in this, what you can see also in this graph, by far the most visited web page is Google. Yeah? That's true outside of China everywhere. And but when you look at Google, what does Google deliver? Google delivers to you a lot of Wikipedia, and not just, and on several levels. Things that are referenced in Wikipedia, they are more likely to be on the first page of Google search results. Then Wikipedia itself is very likely to be on the first page of Google search results. And then, to the detriment of some people at Wikimedia, Google has also tried to answer certain questions directly without even requiring you to click on a link. That's the Google Knowledge Panel. You know that if you do a Google search, on the right-hand corner, the Google Knowledge Panel appears. Not coincidentally, I picked the example of Wikipedia. So that's the Wikipedia Knowledge Panel. If you search for Wikipedia on Google, you get the Wikipedia Knowledge Panel, and you can see the Wikipedia Knowledge Panel is drawn from, of course, Wikipedia. And actually, not all knowledge panels are drawn from Wikipedia. If you're looking for movies, a lot of information is drawn from IMDb, the International Movie Database, but on a huge range of topics. What Google displays in the knowledge panel is, to a large degree, semantic data provided by Wikipedia or other Wikimedia projects. So the case I'm making here, Wikipedia is amongst the top sources on its own, but it's even more important because of its huge impact on the very most important web page knowledge device in our world, by far, by large. You know, YouTube is the second largest search engine after Google, both owned by Google. As a side note, it's also curious and I think relevant for science communication at universities that Wikipedia is the only non-profit web page on the top 50 pages on the internet. So this is also something that I think couldn't be emphasized enough. Now you're saying about Google, isn't Google old news? We are coming to the obligatory AI slides in our world after ChatGPT. That's the only AI slide today. But the point I want to make is this workshop is relevant even if Google goes down, and I'm not seeing that. and we are living in the age of AI, yeah? Because, as you see, Wikipedia is the second largest content source used in C4. It's the primary data source for the open source large language models. And it's particularly relevant for improving these models. And yeah, why? Because it's one of the most trusted news sources out there. And of course, also because it's free to use. Wikimedia has not yet sued against OpenAI. New York Times has. Yeah? So the free licenses of Wikipedia, they also allow it to be used. So to wrap this up, before I now will focus for the remainder of my talk on science communication. Wikipedia knowledge is negotiated amongst volunteers. It's always preliminary. You know, you always can add to a Wikipedia article. It's never fixed. It's always work in progress. It's never finalized, and it's never certain. Yeah? You can never be sure. Everyone is still aware. Even though we trust it, we're still aware that, you know, we don't know which dog actually wrote the article. Yeah? So you cannot know. Most of the content is delivered by pseudonyms, as such, that it actually makes visible, also makes transparent how hard, how controversial, how contested knowledge can be, but still it's possible to arrive at a common kind of article. Yeah, that's never certain, that's never finished, but it's good enough. And I would say that's also how science works. That's how knowledge generation works. We're not having a vote on that, but we negotiate it. And this brings us to science communication. And of course, in this room, I'm actually definitely not the expert on science communication. So what did I do? I looked it up on Wikipedia. What does it say? Science communication encompasses a wide range of activities that connect science and society. And I like this. I liked this definition of science communication as connecting science and society. And I was thinking also about my own experience with science communication on several levels, and I would say one can distinguish two broad, you might disagree strongly with me, but as I said before, never certain, not for sure, always controversial. So I would say there are two ways that particularly those people working in science communication might fulfill this role of connecting science and society. And one is to consult and support direct communication of research findings to non-scholarly audiences. I would say this is something that has grown in importance a lot since the advent of the internet, and since, scholars like I am, they communicate with the public directly, and they don't ask at the university communications office before they do. They just tweet out stuff, or Mastodon out stuff, or whatever you wanna, or they have their own YouTube channel, or whatever, they do. And I would say one of the key roles here is to support this. I would say, and to educate and help. And of course, what you're doing is you're supporting with practitioners' talks. It's about social media consulting. It's about maybe helping to produce video abstracts. That's actually something that more and more universities are doing, trying to feature their scholars. But actually, and I have to say that is true for University of Innsbruck. I was also starring in one of these, two of these science communication videos produced by this university with love, actually. And they sent two guys, and we did all those kind of pictures, me walking around and then reading a book, and that, yeah. So I did, but then it was published. It was translated. It was a work of, I would say, love for knowledge. It reached 200 people, maybe 400 after 3 years, on YouTube. One could say, yeah, maybe it's me. Might be the case. Yeah? But I'm sure it would have reached more if it had been released under an open license that was Wikipedia compatible and would have ended up in a Wikipedia article. Of course, then you had to convince Wikipedians to really use it, but we will get to that. So, but anyway, I would say that's one part. The second part is, of course, and I would say this was more traditionally one of the key tasks, and still is connecting with and translating, I would say particularly translating research findings for non-scholarly audiences, including journalists. So that's a lot of the work you do is first try to understand what the researcher is saying, which is hard, and then, which is often harder, trying to explain what you just understood to a journalist. I don't envy you for that, because what I had to explain to journalists about business law in the course of the Signa and Benko debacle, you don't want to know. So science, I would say science, but not just for you in communication departments, but I would say science journalism itself is also actually in this camp. They want to understand research, and they want to translate it for non-scholarly audiences. And I would say these two, of course, are related, because it's those, at least my experience, those who are willing to directly communicate with non-scholarly audiences, those are the ones, such as on social media, or Wikipedia even, those are the ones that are then identified by science journalists as experts. They are then approached for interviews. So this is something that is reciprocal. So these two, I would say, tasks, they are not isolated from each other. So how does Wikipedia fit in there? And I of course, I have alluded a little bit already where I see this, but let me give you an example now from my other job actually it's not a job, but from the area of the ZDF, one case study where I would say science communication from the journalistic side and Wikipedia really came together in a way that worked out nicely for both parts. And I think this is synergies. I'm at business, synergies. So the case of ZDF TRX, some of you might have heard that, but let's give you a wrap up. Sorry, most of it is in German. What TRX did in 2019, after intensive discussions with Wikimedia Germany, one has to say, and a lot of debate, they released 5, not more, 5 videos on issues of the climate crisis. And they didn't release it what public broadcasters had done before. They had used Creative Commons licenses to release videos, and then they were surprised that no one cared. Yeah? What ZDF understood as the first large public broadcaster in the German-speaking area is it matters what license you use and if your license is Wikipedia compatible or not. And so they launched these 5 videos in 2019, and soon thereafter, these videos, they were integrated in the article on climate models, in an article on climate change, the climate crisis at large, or on, okay, actually I don't know how to translate Eisbohrkerne, I would have known to, but some sciencey stuff in the relation with climate crisis. And what you can see here is that these ZDF videos, even with the logo, because actually Creative Commons licenses, they don't allow you to get rid of the logo. This is in the license, is taken care of. So if you have the university logo and you are proud to have it there, it will survive, even in Wikipedia. And they are used. And I would say, and so they did this with 5 interviews. They tried it out for half a year. Sky didn't fall down. And then they launched another 50 videos, and ever since they are launching every month new videos, 3 to 5 videos every month. And these are the numbers. Actually, I stopped counting in 2021. On the left scale, you see the views per video, and what you can see here is they are kind of stagnant. So there's a huge potential for video content on Wikipedia because there is not so much. Because producing compatibly licensed video footage with Wikipedia in mind is not a business model. It's just not a business model, but it's an academic model. It's a communication model. And these are the total views, and they are actually growing linearly as they increase the number of videos. So now the most recent numbers I have is that now ZDF TRX alone reaches about 3 million people per month with about 200 to 300 videos. Correct me if I have not the correctest. The great thing in Wikipedia, all the data is available online. You can look up for any videos, for any video yourself, how often it has been viewed directly on Wikipedia. So the point, of course, I think I made is if you manage to produce content that Wikipedia volunteers consider worthy and consider an addition to their articles that helps explaining something, helps communicating knowledge in a different way, then you will reach audiences, and you will reach audiences that you would otherwise would be very difficult to reach. So, and I'm coming to an end now with what I promised in the title, talking about potentials and pitfalls. I think the potentials, after what I've told you so far, I think they are quite obvious. There are plenty of potential, to reach new audiences, to increase in terms of citation metrics, and we know it's all about citations. It's not actually, but you might even help to improve or update Wikipedia articles, with most recent research, because that's actually one of the biggest challenges that Wikipedia faces. We have all those articles now on all these kind of topics, but they are usually outdated if it's not one of the most controversial current topics out there. But many many topics, they are not currently in the news. And so not many people are working on them, but still researchers are working on these topics. And finally, you might finally find a stage for explainer videos to be seen, that you're already producing, but for hardly an audience by now. I would say there are probably other potentials, but I think these alone justify to meet here and to exchange strategies in how to unearth these potentials. What are the pitfalls? And of course there are. I would say there are, again, 2 kinds. One is tough but solvable, and then it's tough and unsolvable. Yeah? Let's start with the solvable ones. Yeah? Solvable is the Wikipedia competence gap. Yeah? I would say in communication offices in the world, there's a Wikipedia competence gap. And I think, so Wikipedia is different, it works different than traditional media outlets. Actually, usually there's not a course on how to edit Wikipedia and don't get and delete it in media studies curricula, even though I think it definitely should be in there. So Wikipedia is different than all other media outlets. It's different. There are many, many, many rules. So I picked this one as a joke, of course, because originally Wikipedia was founded, they had this policy, ignore all rules, and up until today there are 5 pillars of Wikipedia and ignore all rules, and then there are several articles on Wikipedia explaining how it's really meant, and that actually no firm rules, yeah. So and actually you should be able to debate rules, but then others say, oh, that's just an easy way out, you know. So for those who are more experienced, if they want to break the rule, they will point to ignore all rules, yeah. But for newbies who really ignore all rules, they just show them the door. Yeah. So actually, Wikipedia has become complicated, and I would say that's not just a bug. That's also, of course, a feature. That's one of the reasons why Wikipedia has become one of the most trusted sources of knowledge out there. Because they have all these rules safeguarding that not anyone can do anything there anymore. Yeah? So that's not just bad. But it makes it harder, you know, to get knowledge into Wikipedia because of all those rules. And a lot of those rules are written and unwritten. You know, actually one could say, most of them are written. Everything is in some wiki somewhere, but just because they're written somewhere doesn't mean you will know them, you will find them. You probably need a hand, actually, and you need to learn about it. And actually, you need expertise, and that's something that you won't get overnight. So that's why I applaud University of Innsbruck to say, you know, we invest in a person who really creates this knowledge, you know, acquires this knowledge. We have one person not exclusively relevant for Wikipedia, but is responsible for it. And this is also the competence gap. This is also why all attempts, also of Wikimedia, I have to say, to bring scholars themselves to put the knowledge into Wikipedia were doomed from the start. It's completely unlikely, you know, there might be the occasional Wikipedian scholar. Yeah, there is the occasional Wikipedian scholar. The scholar who is also Wikipedian. Yeah, I'm not actually. I'm not. I got not enough edits to even vote. Yeah, I got, I think, 120 or so. Anyway, but this occasional Wikipedian scholar, but for all the other scholars, it would be impossible to convince them, and actually I also think it wouldn't be sensible, you know, to teach them how Wikipedia works. They have a lot of stuff to do. Let them do their research. That's why we have communication departments to do that, to support there. And so I think this is really a task for the communication offices at universities to acquire the Wikipedia skills to help some of the knowledge of the university end up in the most important knowledge source of our world and our times. So I would say, but I say it's tough. It's tough. Yeah, it's not straightforward. It's not, here we got all this knowledge, take it. No, that's not how Wikipedia works. That won't work. Yeah, so you need to invest in your Wikipedian competence. The second thing is, I would say that's the easier ones. It would be the easier one if it weren't for the lawyers. I got also a law degree, I can say that. The problem is, the second problem is the lawyers are involved. Yeah, this is the licensing thing. Yeah? The good thing at universities is, actually that was the toughest thing in ZDF, you know, to get the lawyers out of the way. Yeah? And to some degree it still hasn't worked out entirely. But the good thing at universities is there is experience with open licenses, there is experience with open access, there is experience with open science. So that's actually not the highest hurdle. But for a lot of for example, video footage, you're working with, for example, professionals that are not used to open licenses. So you have to educate them. You might have to pay a little more, yeah? Because you want more rights from them. It's actually to some degree a total buyout. It's a total buyout for society at large, but it's a total buyout. So you have to be aware of that. So I would say, and as I mentioned before, not any Creative Commons license will do. Because where all Creative Commons modules allow you to share without clearing rights and use it, but only those attribution license, attribution share alike, they are the ones that are compatible with Wikipedia. That's actually why I usually only talk about Wikipedia compatible licensing, because that's what it's necessary. Yeah? And this is something you also have to educate yourself if you are not aware of that, if you're producing video content that might or should end up in Wikipedia. Okay, so these are tough but solvable problems. Yeah? You can acquire the knowledge. Now let me come at the very end to the unsolvable problems. Unsolvable is the question, and that's something you probably will have also intensive debates over the next days, and I'm happy to have some of those today in the evening. To what degree is science communication PR? And that's an issue that may bothers the Wikipedians in the room most. Because one of the strictest rules in all those rules is that you should not write articles to promote something. Yeah? You should not write in self-interest. And to some degree, that's what you're doing. You want to educate the world about the knowledge of your institution. That's what science communication is also about. It's about explaining science, but it's also about promoting the institution that produced it. Yeah, and and actually, of course, Wikipedia has a term for that. Is it me? No. There's a term for that. It's called conflict of interest editing on Wikipedia. Yeah? I really urge you to read that page. Yeah, it's long, and it has several subpages and all of issues. But I think any science communication effort, any professional science communication effort that targets Wikipedia is doomed to fail if they're not aware of this caveat. And it's not solvable. It's not solvable. You will have to deal with it, but you cannot get rid of it. That will be there. You have to be aware of it. You have to deal with it. What's the way that Wikipedia suggests to deal with it? The way that actually Wikipedia, actually tries to solve any problem. Okay, there are actually two things how it tries to solve any problem. First, throw a wiki at it, and second, transparency. Yeah, so there's actually this guideline, paid contributions without disclosure, they are strictly forbidden. Meaning that if you are engaging as a science communication professional in Wikipedia, you have to be open about it. You have to be transparent. You have to not do it with the sock puppet, yeah? But you have to do it with in this case, a pseudonym is not enough. Yeah? You have to do it with laying open that you are paid to, in a way, work for university for science communication. This has to be made transparent. And this won't solve the problem for you. Yeah? It just shifts the problem, because you will have debates, you will have more questions asked. Your edits will most likely be viewed more critical than the edits from Snoopy65, yeah? Right below you. And that's unfair, but probably healthy, yeah? Because it safeguards the integrity of knowledge, yeah? Which is part of the trust. And now the slide I'm most afraid of in today's talk, the second unsolvable problem. And of course, people in the room are accepted from this rule, but the volunteer challenge, the volunteer challenge. You always have to be aware of. When you engage in Wikipedia as a science communicator, as a professional science communicator, that you get paid for what you do. And those other volunteers at Wikipedia, they don't. They do it out of conviction, out of sense of duty, out of whatever motivation people have for engaging for a common good without getting paid. People go to the volunteer fire brigades, or to, people do all kind of stuff that don't get paid for, but they still get something out of it. And those people, they have invested, much more hours often into Wikipedia knowledge than you have in your day-to-day job. And the problem is, many of those are very nice. And I met most of the people that edit Wikipedia I met are very nice. But there are others. And this is something one has to deal with. Yeah? That's actually something that Wikipedia and the Wikipedia community itself struggles with. Yeah? That's actually part of the things that I refer to when I'm talking about exclusionary openness. If you are open for anyone, you are open for people who drive others away. That's problematic. That's probably some of the reason, part of the reason why Wikipedia has not enough female contributors. But this is also an issue that is unsolvable, but that you have to be aware of. Yeah? That people, they do it in their free time, they have strong convictions, yeah? And they, to some degree, they feel superior than any paid editor in there. And to some degree, they are probably right. And this is something you have to deal with once you go there. This brings me to my very last question. Is it worth it? Okay, I'm biased here. Of course it's worth it, otherwise I wouldn't have given this talk. I wouldn't have been invited, actually. But I want to end with, there's the I already had the obligatory AI slide, and I want to add with the obligatory Elon Musk joke. Because, Elon Musk, once Wikipedia was again asking for donations with this line, which I love. Wikipedia is not for sale and never will be. And Elon Musk then was, posted below, have you ever wondered why the Wikimedia Foundation wants so much money? It certainly isn't needed to operate Wikipedia. You can literally fit a copy of the entire text on your phone. He really got Wikipedia. And then, so what's the money for? Inquiring minds want to know. So just asking questions. I love it. So what I want to make, the final point I want to make is, Wikipedia with all its flaws, actually we spent not enough about the flaws today, but you will learn them, probably all of them. It is an emancipatory project in the tradition of enlightenment, and I would say that's where science is. So we are really in the same ballpark, I would say. Even Elon Musk cannot buy it, and I think that's beautiful. So thank you for the attention, and I'm looking forward to having dinner with all of you.